Hey everybody, welcome to the Bowfishing Buzz presented by AMS Bowfishing. My name is Matthew and I'm here with my good buddy, D. Schmitty.
How's it going, everybody? I feel bad for all you guys listening because every time that intro plays, Matt absolutely shreds an air guitar.
Ooh, I love playing my air guitars, especially the little Black Sabbath War Pigs
Oh,
right
boy.
before the tournament takeoff time. Oh,
It doesn't matter if you were going to a Tupperware party or a tournament. That's the song that you play in the truck. I swear,
love
you
that
play
song.
it all the time.
the beat is so awesome in that song. It gets me going. I
It is
really
pretty
get jacked up for
It
that
is
song.
pretty good. I'll give you that.
Yep. So once again, welcome to Season 1, Episode 12 of Bowfishing Buzz. This is going to be a great podcast, Eric. Mm-hmm. And also, if you want to check it out on the AMS Bowfishing YouTube channel because we're going to have a video playing the whole way through this as well. But we've got a very special guest, Derek. You want to introduce everybody and let them know who's coming on today?
Absolutely. When we first threw around the idea of having a podcast, everyone, you have these guests on and everything. This was, I don't know about you, Matt, this, in my mind, was the first person that I thought we should have on the podcast.
Yep.
He's very well known, a Kentucky legend,
Yes, he is.
big head slayer,
Paw, they call him.
Dennis Redden.
Yeah, this is going to be great. It's going to be really fun to talk with him and find out how he got started in bowfishing and how his first tournaments were, all the way up to when the invasives, the big heads and silvers, really infected the waterways down there. From his first times going out after them and chasing them to a lot of memorable trips that Dennis and I have been on. Dennis and I are great friends, and I'm really excited to get him on the phone. So should we ring him up?
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys go way back. You guys have a lot of history together.
We do.
That's very cool. A lot of cool trips there.
Yep.
Probably have him on speed dial.
Here we go. Let's ring up Mr. Dennis Redden. Uh-oh. There we go. He might be out chasing big heads, too.
Oh, man. Jealous.
Hello,
Is this Dennis Redden?
this is him.
How you doing, Dennis? Bowfishing Buzz here.
I'm doing good, Matthew. How about you?
Well, you know how I'm always going to tell you. It would be better if I was down there shooting fish with you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it would have been better if I could get you down here, but I just can't get you down here, same way.
You're so busy with your guide service down. Every time I call you, you got clients you're taking out every night. You're pretty busy with that.
Yeah, that is true.
Yep.
It's been a good year for clients.
That's good. So whether it's good down there or the lakes and rivers kind of settled down from all the torrential rains we've had this whole year?
Finally, it's getting settled down. It's been a weird year.
Yeah.
Record rainfall and just water levels up and down. Made it interesting anyway.
And now that the lake is, finally at summer pool, they're probably getting ready to drain it for winter pool.
Yeah, it's done down a foot below summer pool now.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, Dennis, we're going to get right into the podcast here. We're going to shoot you off some questions here and give us some of your little stories there, and then we're going to jump into some of the stories that you and I have been involved with as far as bowfishing goes, because we kind of go back a couple of years, so we're going to do
A year or two.
a year or two. So we're going to kick things off here, Dennis. I want to know, Dennis, when did you start bowfishing and how did you get started in the sport of bowfishing?
Oh, that's a long time ago. We used to actually. I started when I was in high school, and we was actually doing wading.
Wading, okay.
Low fishing boats. So we would wade during the spawn in April, and that's all we really know to shoot. Was just when the carp was spawning.
Yep. So those were just carp, not buffs and stuff like that, just common carp?
We would catch a buffalo spawn sometimes.
Okay,
But
all right.
mainly carp and gar.
Sure.
Like I said, just wading around shooting with an old recurve.
So when was that just during that time only, and then you kind of stopped, and then you went to other outdoor activities, or did you do it the whole season, or just during the spawning season?
No, it was basically during the spawn.
Okay.
Because this was back in the late 60s.
The late 60s.
And, nobody knowed anything about bow fishing at night back then.
And strictly during the daytime only, right?
Daytime only, and when the spawn was going on.
All right.
Sure. Hey, Dennis, I got a question for you. Derek here. When you first started getting serious into bow fishing, what was the species that you guys would go chase after? Were the big heads and the silvers as prominent as they are now, or were the commons and the buffs a little bit more what you were targeting? What were you guys shooting out there?
When we first started, well, when I built my first boat, you know, the deck, and I had an air fan on it and everything, it was buffalo and commons. There wasn't no big heads then.
Sure.
The Asian carp hadn't made it on the scene yet.
Sure.
And, you know, gar, carp, and buffalo, that was it.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, what was the first really big fish that you shot before big heads and all that? You know, where you went and you shot it and you got in the boat and you're like, oh my gosh, is this a big fish? You know, what kind of fish was that, Dennis? Do you remember it?
No, not really, but I'm sure it was a buffalo, because buffalo was real good to us when we first started the tournaments in the late 90s.
Yep.
You know,
I thought
was buffalo.
I was thinking you were going to say like a big grass carp or something like that.
We shot some big grassies, but grassies is hard to depend on.
Yeah. Yep.
You'd find them tonight, and then they would be gone tomorrow night.
Right.
But the buffalo and the grassies were just kickers, you know.
Yep.
And we didn't have as many grassies back then as we do now.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Sure. Yeah. Next question. I like this question because when Matt comes back from trips down there, we all live for his stories that he tells us at the shop. As you know, he's one heck of a storyteller, and a lot of those stories, you know, are about tournaments that he competed in with you. As far as tournaments for yourself, when did you first start competing in bow fishing tournaments?
We shot some local tournaments in right around 2000.
Okay.
And then we didn't really start competing in the major tournaments till, you know, we won the Worlds in 2007, and we were just a little old John boat with a trailer on it, and really didn't know what we was doing.
Sure.
And that's what everybody thought, and then it just kind of escalated there, you know, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all that.
Yeah.
We got to hitting it pretty hard then, you know, traveling and shooting the bigger shoots.
Sure. It's crazy how far tournaments have come, you know.
Yeah. And with that, Dennis, you were telling me, I think the first tournament you ever shot in was in the 70s?
In 1972, I won my first tournament. It was a wading tournament on Energy Lake, which is a small lake off of Barkley.
Yep.
And it was big fish. You know, you just weighed in your biggest fish, and I was down the flooded cornfield, and the carp was in there eating on the corn that was still standing.
Oh my gosh!
And I remember it real well because I was stalking carp down the cornfield rows. And you could hear them sucking on the ears of corn because the water was right up to the bottom of the ears, and that's the way you'd find them. You'd hear one sucking on that corn, and you slip up on him and shoot him. And I got lucky enough to shoot the biggest fish, and of course all I got was a trophy, but man, I really thought I'd done something back in 72.
Cool.
So that was a wading only tournament, no boats.
Nobody had boats then. I mean,
really?
If you told people you had a bow fishing boat, they're like, what? You know? Because I ended up building mine in the middle 80s, and for 7 or 8 years, you know, even the game wardens was stopping us out on the water.
Oh, sure.
They thought we was doing something illegal, you know, with all them lights. They couldn't believe that we was out there shooting fish.
Exactly.
And if you seen another boat, you went and stopped them because you know them, because they wasn't over 3 or 4 on all of Kentucky Lake.
Isn't that crazy? Wow, that's crazy.
And now it's any night of the week you can see from 2 to 5 boats on there.
Wow.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. You know, one thing that I don't think a lot of people know about you, Dennis, is you're also a master archer. You know, you've competed in archery shoots, archery tournaments, And you're also a very well accomplished big game hunter. Your trophy room speaks for itself. You got caribou, moose, elk, a bunch of African game in there, and you've shot a grizzly bear with a bow and arrow. And one thing that's really cool is you saved all your arrows, because I was sitting there one time looking at them, and I remember reading one, and it was tagged up there on the board there, and it said like 1980 something baboon. You got shot a baboon with that arrow. But how did all that big game archery hunting get into your blood?
I just I killed my first deer with a bow in 1973. And that's right after I won that big carp tournament, and I thought I was really good. So I started bow hunting in Land Between the Lakes, and that's the only place we had any deer back then. You couldn't, and I just went crazy over the shooting bows, and actually I built me an indoor range at my house. I put up a building, and we got to shooting competition, me and my wife, and Jeremiah, my boy, and even my daughter. For about 8 years, we traveled all over the country shooting competition.
Really?
But bow hunting was my first love. That's what got it all started. Was I just liked to bow hunt.
Right, because I think that's pretty awesome. I think the first time I saw it, I walked into Kentucky Lake Outdoors right there in Calvert City, that archery outdoor store there, and there was a grizzly full body mountain there, and you were actually working there, and I said, "Man, look at that grizzly," and you're like, "Yeah, I know, I shot that."
Oh man.
Yeah, I managed the archery department at Kentucky Lake Outdoors for 13 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and I had my heads there and scattered everywhere, and then when I finally built me a trophy room, and I was like, I'm going to get them all together.
Yeah.
One last time.
It's really neat to see that. I love going into that room there and looking at all your trophies. And then you also got, a bunch of your bow fishing pictures in there too, which are really cool. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that is a very cool room. Dennis, I know I've wondered the answer to this question. For everyone that wants to know, when did you first hear about big heads, and what was your first experience like when you went after them?
Oh, that was probably in the early 2000, 2004, 3, 4. And, there was no silvers here then. When the big head showed up, you didn't see many silvers.
Yeah.
And we got to shooting on the Cumberland and the Ohio, and, I loved them because it was dark. You didn't have to fool with no bugs. You didn't run the lights.
Yep.
And back then, you could shoot a bunch of fish in one night back then.
Right.
It was thick with them, and there was some good fish.
Yep.
It was.
It won
me over.
How did you?
I still like to shoot buffs. Don't get me wrong. A good. A good big buff I really like, but. If I had just to pick one fish, it'd have to be the big heads.
I think a lot of people know kind of because you're like the big head guru, and
no, I wouldn't say that.
But like
I do chase them a lot.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. When you go on? You went on the rivers, of course, for the big heads. And you just what did you use? I mean, you said you're in complete darkness, but what did you use to see the fish and stuff like that?
Well, that was before we had bow lights, so we'd have to have a partner, which it was usually me and Jeremiah or me and Damien, and one guy would hold a spotlight, and the other guy would shoot, and then we'd just rotate every other shot, and that's the only way we know till the bow lights come out, and then we're like, man, this frees up an extra man here.
Sure.
Because even back then in the tournaments, one guy would run the spotlight. Whoever wasn't hitting, that he got designated as the spotlight guy.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. One thing you touched on, Jeremiah, your son, and Damien, who is Jeremiah's friend, but pretty much part of your family because he's been with your family for forever. Teammates are, a key role to bow fishing tournaments, and you have been shooting with you, Jeremiah, and Damien forever. you've never changed teammates except for a couple here and there, but you pretty much stick with your same teammates. You know, that's pretty cool. You know, why do you do that? You know.
Well, Damien, see, he went to school with Jeremiah.
Okay.
Him and Jeremiah was in school together. So I was hauling them around before they could drive
Yep.
to let them shoot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, like I said, he's part of the family.
Yep.
He comes right on up. And far as the team, we just always made it a practice that, you know, because we had places that we don't shoot except on tournaments.
Right.
And there's me and him and Jeremiah's the only ones that know where a lot of these are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to swapping team members too much,
Right.
then all your secret spots are gone.
Exactly.
So, and we shot together for, I don't know, 20 years, I guess, in tournament now or more. And we all know our roles. You know, we don't have to say who's getting here, who's getting there, what. When we
Right.
hit the deck, everybody knows where they're going, what they're doing, and it just makes it easier on all of us when everybody knows their role
Absolutely.
and what we're doing.
Yep. One thing that's really cool, Dennis, is this past weekend you guys competed in the Cajun 8 there on the Ohio River, or I guess it's pretty much anywhere down there you can go to. And
In public water.
Yep. And you had your grandson along for the first time along shooting with you guys in the team. So you had 3 generations of Reddens in the boat competing in the tournament, along with Damien, of course. And you guys took 4th place in that tournament. That had to be a pretty neat experience for you, Dennis.
Yeah, that probably meant more to me than anybody else. But to see your son and your grandson both up there on the deck with you, and we got lucky and had some luck, you know, and got into some good fish. And
Right.
it all, you know how it is when a plan comes together.
Sure.
You know, and it really worked good, and I was really glad that it worked out like that for Ty's first adult tournament. You
Absolutely.
know,
Yes.
he was wore out at the end of it, but he done good, and he was really tickled. You know, he drawed him a check, and
Yep.
it just worked out real good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You know,
that is
3
very neat.
generations bow fishing in a tournament together. That's pretty cool
Yeah,
stuff.
yep.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
because I'm trying to get him tuned up. That's my replacement. That's what we always kid. Well, you know, if we can get Ty tuned up, you know, I can go into retirement maybe.
Right. Well, you've also got another grandson that we take out quite a bit when we come down here. Cody, he's quite a shot too. You know, so you got another one there
Cody,
also.
He comes right along. Of course, you know, his dad don't bow fish, and they're into the junior rodeo. He's big into rodeo, so. But he likes to go, and he helps me on the guiding. Both of them this time. I'd alternate nights when people would want somebody to take fish off. I'd hire them, you know, to go with me just to take fish off, and Cody would get one night, and Ty would get the next night.
Sure.
And that worked out good. Got him a little money, and got him used to being on the boat and not shooting. I think that was the biggest surprise for him.
I bet they were busy too, because you had me on the boat a couple of years back when you had some clients that you were taking out, and I was the one taking the fish off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was a lot more work than standing up on the deck shooting.
Yeah, and both their mothers say, man, they come in and they stink the high hell. I'm like, well, that's a sure sign of a successful night when you really stink.
That's right. That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, nothing like the smell of that big head slime. So,
the big head slime, for sure.
Yep. Okay, Dennis and Matt, I want to know, along with our listeners, how does a kid from Wisconsin hook up with a guy from Kentucky and become bow fishing buddies like you guys have over the last, decade or two?
Well,
that come about in what, 2008 probably?
2008. Yeah, I came down there with Cindy and Jeff to do some filming for the Campbell's Pro Bow Fishing Challenge right there at Ken Bar Lodge on Kentucky Lake. And you weren't competing in that challenge, but I remember I went in the back parking lot and I was looking at these weirdest looking fish I've ever seen in my life, with these big heads and mouths sticking out of these barrels. And I was back there looking at those fish, and you came walking up and started talking to me. right there at the backside of Ken Bar Lodge, right there in Kentucky Lake, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then that night, you and Jeremiah took out Jeff and Cindy, the owners of AMS Bowfishing, and I was filming that night. And it was, like Dennis said, back then there was no silvers.
No,
When
it
you
was.
and you were right, when you would shine that light, it was all big heads.
Oh my goodness.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But then after that, Dennis, you started competing in the Campbell's challenges down there, and
Yeah. In 2009, I guess it was
Yep.
when we started.
yep, and that's what really kind of got me hooked. You know, I would come down there to film, and I would see these boats, and I would see these teams in their jerseys, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was so cool to see all these teams come walking out and getting their boats. They had these jerseys on. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was so jealous of you, Dennis, because you were shooting in it and I wasn't. And then,
we competed in it 3 years, I think, when it was at Ken, or 2 or 3 years when it was at Ken Bar Inn there.
Yep.
At Gibbersville.
yep,
And then they moved it Lake Chickamauga. And
Right.
that's when me and you and Timmy.
yep, and that was in 2011. And for the people out there that don't know exactly what the Campbell's Pro Bowfishing Challenge was, it was a 3-night tournament, bowfishing tournament, but it was also filming-wise. So you had to have 2 shooters and a cameraman. And you got points for, you know, how long you could keep the fish on view before you shot it, the size of fish. And then you had a lot of, you know, extra stuff like B-rolls and underwater footage and time lapses that you had to submit also. And it was pretty grueling, wasn't it, Dennis?
Oh, that's one of the hardest tournaments to shoot. Because
Yep.
like you said, it was, you basically went 3 days without sleep
Yes.
if you was going to compete.
Right.
And, you know, and
Yep.
do enough to think you had a chance at winning it. You just didn't sleep.
Right.
Man.
So so it didn't matter if you went out there and shot a 32-pound buffalo carp and only got a second of pre-roll on that fish, versus if you would have shot a 25-pound, you know, fish and got 15 seconds of pre-roll. That's added onto your points. So it wasn't necessarily getting the biggest fish, but the best footage of those fish before you
and
shot them.
It don't sound like much, but just for these folks that's listening, next time you see a fish, you just start counting down from 15.
Right.
And keep your light on him, or keep him in the light, and don't shoot him till you get to
Yeah.
0. And it's
Exactly.
definitely different.
And not only that, Dennis, too, but then they had to make sure the cameraman's on that fish with good, you know?
That's when you start counting, when the cameraman gets him in view.
Exactly, because that's tough. It's tough. It was hard for me to do because I like to snap shoot right away. You know?
Oh, yeah, well, that's what we do in the tournament, you know, because you see a fish that you can kill.
Right.
You kill it.
Exactly.
And then here, you're just like, oh, me, I've got to wait 15 seconds. That seems like an eternity.
Right. And actually, going back a little bit, in 2008 is when I shot my first big head with you that night, because I was filming there, and then later on in the night, Jeff or Cindy said, "Hey, Matt, you want to come up and try it?" So I went up there and I absolutely fell in love with it. That was my first, you know, big head that I shot, and
that's cool.
wow,
It was pretty good and best I remember, too.
it was right there below Kentucky Dam too.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So that was a lot of fun. One little, you know, Dennis was saying, you know, about teammates and trusting them, and so you don't give up spots. I wanted to go. The Worlds was in Kentucky in 2012, Dennis. Wasn't it down there in 2012? The year I came down and shot it with Baxter?
Let's see. Yeah,
I think it was. But you were shooting with Jeremiah and Damien, of course. And I wanted, and Jeff and Cindy said, "Hey, Matt, we want you to go down and shoot in the Worlds." I was like, "Okay, yeah, you know." I've been on Kentucky Lake before, but only with a camera in my hand for 2 nights prior to this. So I didn't know what I was getting into. So Dennis hooked me up with Kevin Baxter, old Baxter.
Yeah, he was a bass fisherman, but
Yep.
he worked with me down at the sporting at Kentucky Lake Outdoors. So, you know, and I know he bow fished with us a little along, but he knows the lake pretty good because
Right.
he bass fished all the time.
Yep. And so I went down and scouted a couple of days beforehand, and I didn't talk to Dennis at all, before that or anything. You guys were doing your own thing, and I was trying to do my own thing. I remember going to the river and looking for big heads, and they weren't up, so we went to Barkley and couldn't find any fish, and we went to Kentucky Lake and we found some fish. So the night of the tournament, we shot our fish and went back to weigh-ins, and I had no idea what to expect. And we ended up taking second place in the Rose that year.
Good.
Yep.
Real
And
good.
I remember because you were saying how tight knit you and Damien and Jeremiah were, but Damien and Jeremiah, they didn't say too much.
Yeah, I think we won fifth
Yep.
that year, and we ended up weighing in 2 gar. But I got blamed for you winning second because they're like, yeah, thanks a lot for putting that on all these fish. And I'm like, man, I didn't do that.
Right, exactly. But
Hey,
but it's so cool because you say how how you're such a great family man and all that stuff, and it takes a while for you to accept people into your family,
yeah, I know.
and that's what really made me feel so special, I guess, was because when I first started coming down there, I was staying in motels. Well, then you invited us to stay at your cabin right there on Kentucky Lake. And then a couple more years after that, you invited me to your house, and you said, "Hey, come on in, and we're gonna have supper as a family together." And you said you're part of the family, so that was a
man.
pretty cool. It took several years, but I finally became part of the family that one year.
Yeah, we just went ahead and adopted you guys down here.
Yeah.
But we've had some good times together. I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we shot some really good fish together. We have.
We've shot some great fish. We've shot some big fish. One of the I can remember I came down here in 2013, Dennis. Me and Timmy Boy, and we were filming, and we went below the dam, and we were shooting some big heads and silvers. They were just stacked up in there really thick, and then it rained out, so we went and waited in the vehicle. And we came back out on the water there, and the big heads were just up like crazy. And we actually got it on film, but you shot your biggest big head to that date, up to that date right there, and we got it on film, and you shot it, and then I shot a big one after that, and that was just, I think yours was 63 pounds, and mine was 57 pounds. Oh. But, not only to shoot big fish with you, Dennis, but to get it all on film as well,
That makes it a little special, don't it?
Absolutely, because as the people will see here in the AMS YouTube channel, we're gonna have a lot of these videos playing with some of these fish in here, and it's pretty cool stuff because to get these fish on film and to get them those size of fish, it was pretty cool, and to do it with you was even better, because we'd already started to been building a bow fishing relationship here over the years, so it was a lot of fun going out there with you for sure.
Oh yeah, and then we shot some good buffalo together too.
Absolutely.
We've got you down here on the spawn, and actually, you hold the state record for smallmouth buffalo.
That's a pretty good story there, Dennis. I don't know if you want to go ahead and tell it, but before that date, though, we were shooting in the BAA Worlds down there in Kentucky. And
that was during turkey season, and I
Right.
had clients, so I
Yep.
couldn't shoot any with you.
you couldn't shoot in a tournament, and I felt just terrible. And I remember you were texting us the whole night, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, I don't think you slept that night at all.
I had found them fish 3 or 4 nights before,
Right.
And I know when I found them that this is some really, really good fish,
Yep.
and
Yep.
if they stayed, because I remember telling Jeremiah, I took him and showed him right where to go, and I told him, I said, do not leave this spot. If you come in here and they ain't up, you just stay, because
Right.
the fish are here to win this tournament,
Yep.
you know, and what y'all did, y'all shot good, and
Yeah.
you had an incredible tournament.
Yeah.
Just, all the stars and moon aligned,
Right.
and everything. The fish stayed, and they came up, and y'all had over a 40-pound
Yep.
average.
40-pound
20
average.
fish.
Yep. 804 pounds and 20 buffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I didn't sleep that night because I know what was going on, because I had just seen them fish, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, if they come up, it could get ugly here.
Right. And I remember texting you our very first fish we put in the boat that night was a 62-pound buff. And I texted you right away and said, well, we just loaded a big one in the boat, Dennis.
Oh, I remember that well, because I was laying there thinking, and here I am, I'm supposed to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to guide a turkey hunter, and I can't sleep.
Right.
I just shot the tournament and stayed up with you probably.
Exactly. So then I stayed down there for a couple of days to do some filming, and it was just Dennis and I. We didn't have a cameraman or nothing. It was just Dennis and I in the boat. So we went out.
And the grandboys.
At first, it was just you and I.
Yeah.
Yep. So we were just filming. We would take turns. You would get the camera, shoot a fish, and I would get the camera and shoot a fish. And then you shot a 50-some pound buff, and you needed a backup shot. So we remember how we kind of put the camera and just set it on the video platform.
Yeah.
And just let it record itself.
We just making do, doing the best we could do with what we had.
Absolutely. So then later on in that day, we had to go back to the dock because your wife was dropping off your grandboys, Ty and Cody, and we were going to go out and film them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And we got some good video of them boys shooting fish and wading in the water and shooting those gar and stuff like that and chasing those buffs. They shot some grass carp also, I think, that day as well.
Yeah, it was just one of them days when everything was up, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep. But you want to go ahead and tell the story about the buff?
Well, like I said, we was swapping up filming.
Yeah.
Me and Matt, and I had just got done shooting a few fish because the boys were shooting, but the boys was, they was like 7, 8 year old.
Right.
They couldn't hardly stick in them. And so I asked Matt if he wanted to swap and shoot a while, and he said, yeah, I'm ready. So we swapped. I got behind the camera. We ain't gone 2 minutes. And I tell him, I was like, here comes a big fish.
Yeah.
And, of course, it was a big sow. And
Yeah.
she had 4 or 5 males bumping her, right along with her.
Yep.
And, of course, I'm looking through the viewfinder, and it's a wonder I hadn't missed a shot because I looked up because she looked huge in that viewfinder.
She was huge.
My goodness, And I looked up, and it looked like a tank
She did.
coming at us.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yep. Well,
you draw back, and the boys draw back, and then you all shoot at the same time, which actually Cody shoots one of the males. Ty hits the one that you hit, but he just kind of bounced off, And you hit that, and we still didn't know she was that big.
No,
we know she was big, but we got around there, and Ty put a backup shot in her for you, and
Yep.
I remember pulling her up on the boat, and I had a set of little scales, and I was like, we better weigh this fish. Yeah. I remember he's like, it'd be okay. Well, my scales went to, I think they just went to 80 pounds.
yeah.
And it bottomed them out.
Yep.
And I'm like, boys, we better go get this fish weighed somewhere. So we got on the phone, started calling, and trying to get somebody lined up. Well, Cody and Ty didn't want to go weigh her.
No, they wanted to
They
stay.
didn't want to quit shooting. But we finally got Andy Cardwell
Yep.
lined up. Him and James Story, I believe, were both there, wasn't he?
Yep.
I can't
Yep.
remember.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we met them and weighed it, and weighed 87 and change?
Yes. Yep.
That's what it was.
87.8. Yep.
Yeah, 87.8, which made it to new state record
Mm-hmm.
smallmouth, and
Right.
it was a heck of a fish.
It was.
Man.
But before that, Dennis, before the shot, Cody had shot a buff, and he was fighting it.
Yeah, that's what it was, wasn't it? I know
Yeah.
Cody's was going one way, yours was going the other.
Cody's
You were
was
like,
Cody's was like swimming out. You can see the line in the video. Cody's fish was swimming towards the big group of fish that were pushing that big female. And we were all like, Cody, just drop your line, let your fish go, because we didn't want to spook them.
Because we're talking about a 8-year-old kid here,
Right.
and that was probably one of the biggest fish he had ever shot.
Yeah.
He was wanting to get it in.
But he did it. He listened. He dropped his line, and that big old female, the males pushed her right, close to the boat there, and And boy, I remember when we stuck that fish, the wake that thing left because it was in shallower water. I mean, she just you could have surfed off that wake.
Yeah, she definitely was a good one. Biggest buffalo I guess I've ever seen.
Right. Yep. And then so that's really cool because the grand boys got to experience that, you know. A state record, buffalo carp, smallmouth buffalo, and then was it the next year, the year before, the year after, Dennis? Was it 2 years or 1 year?
I think it was 2 years after that. Then.
Yep.
Yeah, I had the boys out and Jeremiah,
Yep.
and we ended up shooting the state record black buffalo.
Right.
Which was 84. It was 84-10 or something like that,
Yep.
And the boys was in on it too.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
they're no stranger to seeing big fish.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool that they get to experience that. That's something that they'll never forget.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they still talk about your big fish. They still do. And remind me that, Bob, she was filming that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I was up there on that filming stand going in circles.
You can actually
Yep.
hear you in the video. I'm like, oh, Dennis, that's a big fish. And you go, I know, and I am up here.
Yep, that high pitched voice.
Oh, wait.
And then also, Dennis, going back to 2013, I came down here with my wife, Julie, and you let us stay at your cabin there on the lake there, and boy, did we get into some monster big heads on that trip.
We had a good trip that trip, didn't we?
Man, it was I was filming. It was you and Julie and Damien, and boy, the footage of those giant big heads right on the surface during the daytime was just incredible.
And that was kind of a double-edged sword because it got me lots of calls for booking.
Yeah. Yep.
But they all wanted to shoot 60 and 70 pounders. And I'm like, that just don't happen every day.
Right.
That you see them kind of fish.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
yeah, I think Julie shot her biggest fish
Oh yeah.
on that trip,
Yep.
and it was a good time.
It was
Good
fun.
time.
But and one thing that we did on that trip is Dennis and I were out on the Ohio River during the night on that same trip, and we were shooting some big heads. And you said to me, Matt, have you ever tried big head? I'm like, nope, and I'm not going to. So I just stayed up on the deck shooting fish, and you were down below cleaning fish. You were cleaning big heads, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to eat them. Don't even waste your time. I'm going to keep shooting. You can flay them up, but I'm not going to eat them.
But they fooled you, didn't they?
They really did. They really did. You took the time, and like you said, it's best that you take care of these big heads really fast because they're a fast decomposing fish. So, you had a cooler of ice in there, and you flayed them out, and you deboned them a little bit, put them in Ziploc bags, and put them on that ice. And I'm telling you what, if you have never tried deep fried big head, their meat is as white and flaky as any fish that I've eaten before.
Oh yeah,
It was great.
It's really good. It's just total opposite of what you would expect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we beer battered those up in your cabin there, and we had your wife, my wife, Ty was there, Jeremiah was there, his wife, and we had a big old fish fry down there of big heads, and it was some of the best deep fried fish I've ever had in my life. And that says a lot coming from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
We have
Yep.
You have good fish up there.
we've got the
don't
Wisconsin fish fries up here, so that was unbelievable. It was really good.
you? And people, my clients, a lot of them want to try them.
Yep.
Well, the guys that I had out last night, they're from Michigan. They're like, well, we'd like to take a little of that back. And I'm like, that's good. I have to quit shooting to dress them. Well, when we got into the fish last night, I'm like, you want to dress these? No, we don't want to take time out to quit shooting. So I just kept shooting. So tonight, they say they're going to dress some tonight, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, they are good, but I'm showing Derek here a question that I want him to ask you.
Sure. In 2011, Dennis, the AMS, the Big 30 was in Brandenburg, Kentucky. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience down there?
I go blank on that, Derek. I just forget. I can't. I have amnesia. I can't remember that. That's like a reoccurring nightmare.
Yeah.
That every time I think about it, I just get sick at my stomach.
It was the hard part about it was, Dennis, is it was our first tournament that AMS was putting on, and it was out of Brandenburg, Kentucky. It was on the Ohio River only, and you got all the rules, of course, for tournaments, and one of the rules was no shooting 24 hours prior to the tournament.
Yep.
So I'm out shooting fish because I'm not shooting in it. I'm out on the water Friday night shooting fish, and I'm all of a sudden my phone is just erupting with these text messages. Hey, you better check Facebook. Hey, you better check Facebook. I'm like, well, what's going on here? And you can go ahead and tell us what we saw when we opened up Facebook.
Uh-oh.
You saw me standing there holding a 40-plus pound big head.
Oh, man.
And everybody, was like, "Oh, you going to cheat?" I'm like, "Why would I cheat if I put it on Facebook? I just had a senior moment." And Jeremiah was with me.
Yeah.
He took the picture.
Yeah. Yep.
We never even thought about the 24-hour rule.
Right.
Of course, just quick as my phone started blowing up too, and of course I talked to you, and I was like, well, just we're out of the tournament. You don't have to disqualify us. We pull ourselves out because it was just a mistake that we didn't even think about. The worst part about it was we was on some really good fish.
Oh, man.
Really good fish. But you live and learn. You can bet now. I get text the day before the tournament. Damien is like, make sure you got all the balls out of the bowl. Okay, so that was a lesson really hard learned there.
And that was one of the hardest phone calls for me to make because, you and I have good buddies and stuff like that, and I had to call up and tell you, So that was
it's just the way it was.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But I didn't even think about it. It just one of them. Of course, we had been running and scouting for like 5 nights. Yeah. And not much sleep, and just wasn't engaging brain.
Right. And then in 2015, Dennis, we came down with Jana Waller and Jim Kinsey with Skullbound TV, and we took out Mike Krampus, Iraqi vet, and did some filming for their TV show. And you also
had a good trip. That trip
had a really good trip, and it was, that was the first time that Mike experienced the sport of bow fishing. And boy, he just fell in love with that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. It was cool.
That was a good trip for a good cause. Everything about that was good.
Yep. And then on that trip, also for the TV show, you flayed out a bunch of big heads, and we had another big head fish fry as well, and it went over very good as well.
Yeah, I think Jana was surprised at the big heads too, the way they taste.
Yep. Getting back to Derek's question there. I know you're a little silent over there.
No, I'm just trying to soak this all in. You two got the history. This is
all day, Matthew, about
yeah, this is totally fine.
Tails and what all we have shot.
Oh boy, this could be a 2-part podcast if we went into detail about everything. But I just want to tell a little story here, Dennis. In 2009, I came back down there with Jeff to do some filming. And on the way down there, Jeff was like, "Now, Matt, Dennis is a Christian man and stuff like that, so no swearing and this type of stuff, and no farting and stuff, No farting.
Me and Jeff had, we'd been around a little bit together too, and ended up having. Me and Jeff actually went to Africa together on a trip. So, me and Jeff has got some history. Nothing like me and you, but we have some history too.
Absolutely. And I remember we went to the Stairline Stockade to eat before we went out bow fishing that night. And boy, I had a big old pile of food there, and we were heading to the boat launch now to go to put the boat in. And I was sitting in the back of that Excursion on leather seats. And boy, oh boy, I had a big old bubble just a brewing, you know. And I couldn't hold it any longer, and it just kind of and I just kind of, oops, sorry about that, you know. And then to this day, you still say that same word. You always go, easy.
Oh my God.
I'll be up on the deck some night, and it'll be like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll let one rip, you know, and stuff, and all of a sudden you hear him go, easy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I guess we've been together too much. We did that.
Yeah, you guys are really comfortable together. Wow.
Oh my.
One thing that I love coming down there for, Dennis, is coming down there for the Jared Ashmore Youth Tournament that Andy Cardwell puts on down there. And taking out Cody and Ty for the last several years now. That's been a lot of fun coming down and sharing that experience with your family as well, you know.
That's a good tournament. You know, it's for kids only.
Yep.
And every kid gets a prize whether they shoot a fish or not. And,
Right.
you know, it's just, you know, Ty's been lucky enough. He's won it 2 or 3 years. But it's just a good tournament for the
Yep.
kids. And he'll have 200 kids,
Right.
you know,
Right.
at the tournament.
Absolutely.
So it's a good deal. And, yeah, you've kind of made it a tradition for the AMS to show up.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Ty
Right.
and Cody thinks they have to be on that boat to shoot it.
You know, I was going through a bunch of old folders and putting pictures together for the video for the podcast here and stuff, and it's just so cool to see how those Ty and Cody have grown throughout the years. You know, from being little, you know, 7-year-olds to teenagers now, and even compared to 2 years ago, how Cody has grown so much and gotten so taller and stuff. But it's a lot of fun taking those boys out bow fishing.
Yeah, he is taller than I am now. Like I said, they both started, and Ty shoots a little more than Cody. I mean, I try to take them both at the, you know, most of the time, but, you know, of course, Ty's daddy stays on the water a lot too, and them boys have been shooting, I mean, since, you know, they was 4-year-old. They
Right.
couldn't even think about sticking in a fish, but they went along and bounced them off their heads, you know. I still remember Ty's first big head that he shot. It's probably a 25-pound big head.
Yep.
And we chased that fish around for probably 20 minutes, just not putting no
Yep.
pressure because we knowed he was just barely in
Sure.
the barbs, you know.
Yep.
And if anybody had been watching us, they thought we just shot the world record when we got that fishing boat, you know, because he had wanted one in the boat that he shot by himself so bad. And when we finally did, he was probably 6-year-old.
Wow.
We
That's
had
cool.
a big celebration right in the middle of the river that
You
night,
bet.
I'll put it that way.
You bet. You
That's
bet.
cool.
That's awesome.
very cool.
One thing that I want to bring up here, Dennis, before we close up here is a couple years back, I don't know what year it was, 13 or 14, when they had the all-out carp boat down there, Dennis. What year was that, you know? Remember what year that was?
Oh, let's see, it was 2016.
2016 that was. Okay. All right. And I wanted to come down there and shoot in that with you guys, but that was the same weekend as our AMS Big 20. So I couldn't get down there to that, but
And,
You
and
guys-
they wouldn't let me shoot in it. That's was
Right.
the bad part.
Yep.
Of course, Brian Hughes was putting it on. And,
right.
that was just one of the rules if you was a licensed guide.
Yep.
And I actually
wow.
called Brian and talked to him. I'm like, you know, what's the deal here? He said, I remember his words exactly. He said, oh, Denny, find fish, put them boys on them, and they'll split the pot with you. Thanks, Brian. But that's basically what we did, you know.
Right.
I helped scout, and we got lucky and found some good fish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they stayed, and
Those were some giant, some super
Yeah.
giant big heads.
because
Wow.
we got the big fish of the tournament, which was
Yeah.
75. and
Oh,
I
boy.
think we had a 69, we had a 66, and a 62.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
as far as money, you know, we come out of that tournament was 28,600.
Oh my gosh.
That was.
Wow.
I did get a cut out of that. So
Yeah.
The voice was good to me, you know. But it was it just one of them tournaments that everything come together, you know.
Yep.
And
Oh
we
my goodness.
had some really good fish found, and they stayed.
Yeah.
You
Yep. A funny story to that, Dennis, is you were not allowed to shoot in a tournament because you were a guide. So when the tournament started, you went on the opposite side with Brian Hughes to watch all the commotion below the dams. You wanted to see all these people trying to shoot these fish, and
Well, actually, Andy was there with his Cardwell, and Kenzie
okay,
was cooking big heads. We was there in the parking lot at Barkley Dam on the west side eating big heads.
wow.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt
Nope,
you.
nope,
Go
nope.
ahead with
Go-
the story.
Go ahead, you can tell the rest of the story because you know it better. You were there.
Well, you know, we was there eating big head and watching because there was like 15 boats below Barkley, just everywhere, you know. And Brian gets a call. And I think he gets all serious, and he's like, "Yeah, no." He said, "That's not right, no." And of course, I didn't think nothing about it. And directly, I said, or he said, "Well, I'll tell you, I know it's not right because I'm standing here talking to him right now." Somebody had called him and told him that Redden guy had slipped in the boat with his boy and Damien. They had seen him and said, "He's in the boat with them, and he's shooting a tournament, and they need to be disqualified."
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, "Yep, we got a big laugh out of that, you know." And
That's
but
funny.
That's just some of the stuff people go
Oh
through, I guess.
yeah.
I just think that's so funny. He calls the tournament director, and you're standing there eating big heads with the tournament director.
Brian got a big kick out of that after he got off of the phone with him.
Wow, that's funny.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
really funny.
Wow.
That's funny. But it's kind of funny because this year when I was down there for the Jared Ashmore tournament, Dennis, you had the new AMS Hooligan bow, and you kind of lost that bow, didn't you?
Well, I mean, that was that's a story in itself, you know. I'm shooting the E-Red. I've shot the E-Red for 2-3 years now, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a little heavy, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
holding it up all night in the tournament. And so, like I said, I got a Hooligan, and shot it one night. Like, man, this shoot's okay. You know, I believe I could like this.
Yeah.
And then Ty Mason got a hold of it one night. And
That's your
said,
grandson.
"Pops,
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah." He said, "Pops, I kind of like this ball." I'm like, "Okay, you can shoot it tonight." Well, we went the next night, and he has a juice all set up with the AMS spec light and everything, you know.
Yep.
But he got that Hooligan again. I'm like, "What are you doing with that ball?" That's mine. He said, "Well, I want to try it one more time." I was like, "Okay." Well, then the next weekend, he comes and we get ready to go. And what do you think he drags out? He drags that Hooligan and puts it in the boat. And I'm like, "What happened to the juice?" And he said, "Pops, I think you need that one for your client." He said, I believe I'm going to have to stay with this Hooligan." I'm like, "Well, gee, thanks." So, long story short, I call Matt and I'm like, "Man, I haven't got to buy another Hooligan. I lost that one."
Yep.
And I know you said you lost it. I'm like, "Yep, Ty Mason got his little grubby paws on it, and I can't get it back."
That's
so now
funny.
then and of course Ty thinks that's pretty cool that me and him are shooting the same boat.
Oh yeah, you bet.
He thinks that's pretty cool too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Dennis, we're getting here on the 1 hour, getting close to 1 hour here, so we're gonna have to say goodbye to you. And we thank you a ton for joining us here on the Bowfishing Buzz podcast.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
It was great talking with you again and reliving some of those memories over the years that we've had. So, best of luck the rest of your year. Do you want to give a little shout out to your guide service there, Dennis?
Oh yeah, you know, people reddensoutfitters.com. They
Yep.
won't go there to my website, and like I said, it's getting about over for this year. But you know, if they want to shoot big heads, silvers, buffalo, whatever,
Right.
they can give me a shout. My number's on there,
Yep.
and hopefully I can get you down here at least a couple of times. Next year, there's a lot of big fish down here and needs to be killed.
We've been trying to do this for a couple of years, but you need to get your butt up here.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave this, Matthew.
Hey, you see some of the commons we have up here. You need to come up here and experience some of them 40-pound commons.
Well, I keep saying that every year, but that's usually when our bust is spawned.
Yeah,
So
I know. Yep.
maybe next year. I still hadn't. I have good plans, but maybe next year I'm gonna surprise you and just show up in the driveway and say, "Okay, Matthew, here I am."
That would be great. That would be great because I might be coming down by you here in the next about a month or so. So I might come back down and visit you here again. So with that, we're gonna say goodbye to you, Dennis, and best of luck, and we'll keep in touch. And once again, thank you very much for joining us here on the Bow Fishing Buzz podcast. And you take care of them grandboys now.
Will do. And we will see y'all later. Goodbye.
See you, Dennis.
All right, see you, Dennis.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, I felt like a kid at story time.
I love the accent. I love his laugh. I always hear that laugh. Mm-hmm. And I always hear that little laugh there.
Yep.
But, yeah, we hope you enjoyed, this podcast here, the Bow Fishing Buzz with Dennis on there.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of. I think you two could talk for a day straight on all the stories. I don't think you even touched on all your notes that you had written down there.
I didn't. I missed a lot of stuff that I want to talk about because it's just too long, But we have spent a lot of hours traveling together. We shot stingrays together. I didn't even talk about the stingrays.
Sure.
When we went to Delaware, Dennis and I went to Delaware shooting stingrays with my wife. And Dennis used to have a couple TV shows. He was Kentucky Lake Outdoors.
Yep.
Which was a local outdoor show down there in the Kentucky area. And then he joined up with Preferred Outdoors and was on the outdoor channels with them. And then he's been on a couple of ours when we had that little spurt there when we were on the Destination America and Bowfish 24/7, 365. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we've got a lot of stories. We go back a long ways, and I'll do anything for that guy. He's the one who really, kind of took me under his wing and showed me, what to do. Now there's still spots that he won't take me and hasn't taken me, and I have no problem with that. But
Yeah.
It took a long time for him to start taking me to some of these spots to trust me.
Yeah.
Which I totally respect. And now, like I was saying earlier, how Jeremiah and Damon didn't want to really talk to me much or nothing
Sure.
like that because I was, who's this kid?
Right.
Who's
New
this
kid on
that-
the block, yeah.
That dad keeps bringing down here all the time. But
Yep.
we get along really good now. We shoot a lot of tournaments together. We've shot in the Bass Pro U.S. Open tournaments before the Worlds and stuff like that. So they've kind of all taken me under the wing, and I really appreciate that.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's time for our AMS product highlight for this week.
Yeah, I think a good product highlight would be let's do it with the Hooligan bow because Dennis is liking it and his grandson is taking over the AMS Hooligan.
Sure, the AMS Hooligan. Put the hammer down with this no let-off dual cam bow. It's built for bow fishing, not repurposed like other bows. It features our rapid adjust posts, our wrap cam system. Requires no bow press to adjust and be quickly customized to any shooter, as we just learned. Dennis, who's been shooting for how long? Big tournament shooter, shoots all these big fish.
Yep.
His grandson loves it.
Absolutely.
And so does Dennis. They both want to shoot it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, get the Hooligan decked out with the TNT bow fishing reel and tidal wave rest. Some of the bow specs, the draw weight is 24 to 50 pounds. Maximum draw length is 32 inches. Axle to axle at 50-pound post is 34 3/4. And at the 40-pound post, it's 34. And the brace height is 7.5 inches. It's a great all-around bow.
Very nice bow. And that rapid adjust post is basically there's on the cam, there's a 40-pound post and a 50-pound post.
Yep.
So you have max efficiency when you set it up on those posts for either the 40-pound draw weight or the 50-pound draw weight versus not having that. So if you have your bow set at 40 pounds and you go to back it up to get it down to 40 pounds, well, you just lost a lot of energy because you stretched the string now, your limb pockets opened up. You can put it on that 40-pound post, and everything's nice and tight again.
Right.
Yep. So great little bow right there.
Absolutely. Check it out at amsbowfishing.com.
Absolutely great bow. Once again, we hope you enjoyed episode 12 of AMS Bowfishing's Bowfishing Buzz. From all of us at AMS Bowfishing, we wish you the best of luck. And remember, aim low.
Think big. Thanks for listening, guys.